Hi, I'm Andrew Smith, Associate Director of Virginia Farm Bureau's Governmental Relations Department.
And I'm Stephanie Talon with Farm Bureau Government Relations. Welcome to our last 2021 General Assembly Weekly Update. We're wrapping up here for the year, and Andrew, I don't know about you, but I'm all smiles.
Me too, Stephanie. Big smiles over here, and glad to be with you today.
Well, on that note, we're going to jump right into our third, I think this is our third year doing this, of our smiley face update. So we're going to go through a list of some of our top bills that we were following this past session and let you know, real simple form, whether it came out in favor of Farm Bureau with a smiley face, whether we were neutral on the position with a neutral face, or whether it didn't work out in favor of Farm Bureau's position with a frowny face. So Andrew, I'll kick us off here. One that we talked about earlier this session will be of interest to our Southeast folks. This is about the peanut excise tax, and the bill was to extend the sunset date and adjust the excise tax based on the amount of peanuts grown in Virginia. And those funds go to promotional, research, and educational efforts for the peanut industry. And so, of course, Farm Bureau supported that, and it did pass. So we are going to give that a smiley face.
Great.
The next one I'll mention is related to Conserve Virginia, and this is a GIS land conservation prioritization model that we've talked about also prior to session, involved in one of our critical issues. And we had some concerns with this legislation that it would affect a landowner's ability to maintain their land and use traditional agriculture and forestry production practices. But thankfully, we worked with the patron to iron out those concerns, and so we ended up in a good place with that bill, and we're going to give it a neutral face.
Oh, good, Stephanie. Stephanie, the one I want to mention first is one dealing with local ordinances. Our viewers and members have heard us talking about the addition of a definition of clutter, where localities can put in local ordinance, and we were concerned about how farm equipment could be considered clutter under the definition proposed. I'm happy to report that we were able to get that bill amended where our concerns were alleviated. I'm not going to say, we were for the bill once it is, but we are glad that we were removed from that concern. And so we're going to give that a neutral because we really weren't supportive of the bill, but our concerns were relieved from that. So we're happy about that part of it anyway.
Great. The next one I'll mention is the Dairy Producer Margin Coverage Premium Assistance Program. And you may remember this is the one that will reimburse dairy producers for their premium payments into the federal Dairy Margin Coverage Program. And we're super excited to report back that not only did the legislation pass to establish this program, but it was also funded for $1 million to get this program going, which is huge news. So we're going to give that one a smiley face. In fact, I'll give it a double smiley face since it's both funding and legislation.
A double smiley face.
So a first ever double smiley face.
That's amazing. Stephanie, everybody knows that Bend worked with our partners in the industry to try to maintain the farm worker exemption in the minimum wage law in Virginia. The legislators last year in the General Assembly, when they increased the minimum wage, did maintain several of the exemptions that were in Virginia code, of which the farm worker exemption was in there. It was a bill this year to remove that exemption. And after a lot of discussion, and especially on the floor of the General Assembly, that bill failed and that farm worker exemption was maintained. And so we're going to give that a smiley face. That bill would have negatively impacted a segment of our industry, so we're glad that bill did not make it through.
Great. Another one that we talked about pretty frequently this session was related to neonicotinoids. And at the beginning of the session when this bill was introduced, we had some serious concerns that it would restrict farmers' abilities to use these critical crop protectants. But we were able to work with the patron throughout this process to make sure that this would not in fact happen. So the bill landed at more of a study to look at the impact that this would have, the use would have on the bees in our Commonwealth. So we are very fortunate that we're still able to use these crop protectants. And so with that, we're going to give a smiley face.
Thank you, Stephanie. Let's shift to the budget for a little bit and talk about some of the budget issues that we have been talking about all session and before session during our regional meetings. And one of our critical issues for the last several years has been agricultural best management, cost share dollars, and technical assistance. And I'm happy to say an additional $30 million were added to the budget, bringing up the amount available for cost share and technical assistance to $65 million. So obviously we're going to give that a smiley face. It's good news.
Absolutely. And speaking of critical issues and funding, we also talked about prior to session, more funding for farmland preservation, specifically the State Purchase of Development Rights Program, which would allow localities to use those matching funds to create their own local PDR programs. And we were fortunate to secure an additional $750,000 for that program to get it to a total of $1 million. So we're on a roll here with another smiley face.
That's amazing. Great. Stephanie, I keep saying, another important issue in the budget, a true area that partners with the production part of our industry is Virginia Cooperative Extension and the research programs across the state out of our land grant universities have for years have a great need, lost positions, counties that weren't being served. And so I'm happy to say that the area of Virginia Cooperative Extension and the research centers have gotten a boost in the budget. First, an additional $1 million to address some areas of need, such as internet connection and some additional positions. Also in the budget is a 5% raise to state employees, which will greatly help the extension and research areas. So I'm really happy about that for them and our industry to have those partners out there working to disseminate that information and continue that great research. In the budget is $1.55 million for information technology upgrades at our local county offices and AREC stations, AREC being the Agricultural Research Experiment centers around the state. And then finally, $2.45 million for new equipment at those research stations around the state. So really good news, much needed equipment and infrastructure improvement and some positions that will now serve some underserved areas of the state, the agriculture community, and those communities as a whole around the state. So really good news.
And I think there's one, we might have to have one frowny face in this discussion here. Is there another bill that you are working on?
Yeah, and actually Ben is kind of a tag team on that. We had a bill that was put in and it would have dealt with local government reporting on solar projects going in around the state. It called on states to report, counties to report to the state the amount of acreage lost to solar projects. If it was ag land, forest land, what type of land taken out to put into a solar project to kind of keep an inventory going and have a better picture on it. But unfortunately, that did die in subcommittee, and we're going to give that a frowny face because we believe we need to keep tabs on the ag and forest land lost to solar because, it's something you can't replace. So we think we need to monitor that.
Absolutely. And even though we were ending on a frowny face, overall, a really good year for Farm Bureau policy, particularly with the budget. This was a top 10 kind of wrap up of some of the issues that we talked about a lot during our weekly updates. But for our members who are receiving our email updates, a more comprehensive email newsletter update will be sent to you soon with more details and all of the bills that we were following this past session. And we really appreciate everyone who's tuned in every week to hear us share these updates. It's been quite an interesting session going virtual. We'll see how things look next year, but we appreciate everyone tuning in and all of your support throughout the session.
Thanks, Stephanie, and I give you a great big smiley face for working with you this year.
Right back at you.